When a mayfly hatch is in full swing, it is common for trout to key in on the emergent stage of insects, and having a good emerger pattern can be critical. This is a fairly basic emerger pattern, making it quick to tie and easy to have in a variety of colors and sizes. As usual, a list of the materials I used in this video can be found in the description below. Start your thread and lay down a thread base ending deep into the bend. Z-lon works great to imitate the nymphal shuck. Often the Z-lon is too thick, so separate about a dozen or so fibers and trim the ends so they are all aligned. Hold the Z-lon so the ends go just past halfway up the hook. Tie in the fibers on the side of the hook facing you, and allow the torque from the thread to carry them up to the top of the hook. Take wraps up the hook securing the ends of the fibers, then work the thread back down, making sure that the shuck begins where the thread base ends. Grasp all of the fibers at once and cut them about a third of the length of the body. Be careful not to pull them too tight or the fibers will straighten out, losing the crinkled nature of the Z-lon. The abdomen is made from a turkey biot. Soaking them in water before use makes them much easier to work with. Cut the end of the biot and tie it in with the translucent side facing down. Just like the Z-lon, tie it in with the end just past the halfway point of the hook. Once the biot is secure, spin your bobbin counterclockwise so the thread lays flat, and begin building up the body, creating a relatively smooth, slightly tapered underbody, ending a little past the halfway point of the hook. Begin wrapping the biot around the hook. The biot will try to fold on the first wrap. Allow it to do so, ensuring that the translucent side is facing the eye of the hook. We want the fuzzy side oriented towards the rear. This helps to create exaggerated segments. Make these segments slightly larger each time you wrap up the hook. Tie off the biot a little past the halfway point of the hook by taking a few wraps to hold the biot in place. Then trim off any excess and secure it by covering it with thread. Don't fret if the tie-off is a little messy, it will all get covered later. Now we are going to make a parachute post. I prefer to use synthetic materials to make the post on this fly, and I find that an opaque material like polyyarn is easy to use and is still quite visible on the water. Remove half of the polyyarn and set it aside to use on the next fly, then align the fibers from the other half. While not necessary, I like to use a little superglue to anchor the post. To do this, put a small dab of superglue on top of the thread base where we want the post to be. Place the polyyarn so the midway point is about where we placed our superglue. Then take a few tight turns of thread to secure it. Now prop both ends up and begin taking turns around the base, working your way up until the two ends become one post. Now alternate between taking wraps around the post and around the hook shank. Continue doing this until your post is secure. Select a hackle feather that is slightly oversized for a standard dry fly in the size you are tying, and prepare it by removing the fibers from the bottom of the stem. Place the bare stem on the hook and tie it in front of the parachute post. Then bend the stem and take wraps up the post to secure it. It helps to leave a little bit of bare stem exposed. This will be important later. Create a very small dubbing noodle and use it to cover any exposed thread and to build a thorax. Here I am using Australian possum because I love how it looks and acts in the water, but it is hard to find in every color I need, so I end up using other dubbings as well, and I usually end up settling on a fine dry fly dubbing. It is vital that you end with the thread behind the parachute post so we can tie off the hackle later. Begin taking turns around the post with the hackle. Start at the top and move down the stem a little with each wrap. That bit of exposed stem we left earlier helps us to get the feather oriented correctly on the first wrap and prevents rogue fibers from appearing. The feather should be oriented with the darker shiny side facing up. Once you have reached the base of the stem, hold the hackle firmly and take a wrap of thread around the post. This first wrap should go under the parachute we created, but over the hackle stem. Now pull the hackle stem up and take another wrap going underneath everything. Then pull the stem back down and place one more wrap that goes over the stem but under all the hackle fibers. Pull the thread tightly and cut the stem off close. Tying off the hackle in this way cinches the stem and does a really good job of securing it to the post. Create a very small dubbing noodle, and while pulling the hackle fibers up, use it to advance the thread to the eye of the hook. Then whip finish at the eye, using the same technique to hold the hackle fibers out of the way. After cutting the thread free, you can trim the post to length. There is no right or wrong length, though I like mine a little longer so it is easier to see on the water. I like this fly because it is simple and effective, and though I recently started fishing hackle stacker emergers a lot, I can tie these quicker and they still work great. I have been fishing them for years and they really have treated me well. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them, so please leave them down below. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing for more like it. Thanks for watching, and tight lines.